Hello, and welcome to Call Your Coven, where we offer practical advice for nonsensical times, generally through the lenses of astrology, numerology, and tarot. I am one of your hosts, Meg Jones-Wall. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm the resident tarot reader of the Coven. Now, I know you know and love our usual episodes that have the monthly forecasts and our topical conversations, but this is the first episode that we're doing in a new series of guest chats. We're going to be sprinkling these in as they make sense and as they feel relevant. We'll be bringing in friends and experts from various modalities to talk with us about their practices, share some of their stories, and bring some more expansive viewpoints to the pod. Now, I am stoked today to be introducing you to Laetitia Barbier. If you've been reading tarot for any amount of time, or if you're interested in tarot history or art history, you're probably very familiar with her incredibly beautiful work. We have a wide-ranging conversation on art history, on personal practice, on using the cards as conversation, and on the expansiveness of relationship with the tarot. We had a great time. We talked for like an hour. We probably could have talked for 3 more hours, but I really hope you enjoy this conversation, and you'll be able to find all of the links to everything we talk about in the show notes. Enjoy. Hello, Coven. I am so honored and excited to be kicking off this very first guest chat as part of Call Your Coven with the incredible tarot scholar and teacher, Laetitia Barbier. Laetitia, thank you so much for joining me today. I've been really looking forward to this chat. And I wondered if you might just start by introducing yourself to anyone who hasn't yet fallen in love with your work. How about that?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Meg. I'm very excited. I'm very excited to be here with everyone, virtually and non-virtually. My name is Laetitia Barbier. I'm French. I live in New York. I've been living in New York for 14 years now. I read cards for a living. I also teach tarot. My background is in art history, so my approach in looking at the card is really influenced by that, by learning and resacralizing our relationship with images in general. I have obviously a strong interest in esoteric art, but my approach to tarot is really linked to, I guess, image magic and maybe less classically esoteric topic like astrology or Kabbalah. It's more kind of that direct response to images, and then I like to write. I don't know if I'm a good writer, but that's
You're a beautiful writer. I've had the honor of editing you. You're a beautiful writer.
And there is a thing I can do in life. So I write stuff. I write mostly about art and tarot, and that's otherwise I enjoy reading books and going to exhibition and loving my friends.
Love to see it. That's the way we're all surviving right now. I do happen to have your book here. So for anyone who's on the video, this book is beyond beautiful. And as someone who is not particularly skilled at researching history, but who often wants to be able to find like historical images of other decks, I can't recommend this book highly enough. I got it as part of I'm working on a book on the devil archetype right now. Exactly. And the devil is just all over my world right now. And this book was so valuable because I found it so hard to research old versions of cards. Can you share anything about the process of how you fell in love with tarot art specifically, and like how you find and access these images? I know a lot of them are through museums, but I find them challenging to find, but I'm also not very gifted at it.
So this is my background is in art history, so I do have this kind of like, I'm going to call that a compulsion of
Yes.
opening drawers and looking at archives and going to museum and looking at books and of course there is the it would make it could make the mistake of making me pass for like a great intellectual. I think it's because I'm a Taurus and I'm a Taurus and a voyeur, I think. And what happened is a lot of people were kind of like neurodivergent. I really enjoy rabbit holes. I spend my life in undercurrent of cultural research, which is why I made that my career basically.
Yeah.
And this is what I do. I wake up very early in the morning because usually the morning is the best time for me to read, and because I'm just my energy is renewed.
Mm-hmm.
I read books and I drink coffee. and
Yeah.
I'm French, so like it's like a lot of it.
Good, yeah.
So I get just super wired on coffee, and then I get very explorative,
Mhm.
and for basically since the time I had an actual laptop, which was I think 2012. Like there was this huge endeavor from public collection, museums, libraries to digitalize a lot of their collection and then put them online. And so, like for me, this was Disneyland. So I would drink tons of coffee and then go on the French Library or the New York Public Library or any library that has a public database, and then just type stuff like witches or death or skeleton or esoteric or the moon, and then just basically look at what comes up and then scroll and see and it was such an interesting way to discover all sorts of things. And then I was not I've read cards for a very long time, but I'm only a professional since 2017, and I never before that I never really had imagined that they would become my life purpose really.
Mhm.
And so there was this, so I had this terrible habit of drinking too much coffee in the morning. I was already doing all this like like looking for images, and then when I started, like everyone else, I just came out of the tarot closet. Okay, I'm just gonna like I feel like a complete fraud, but I'm just gonna do this now.
I feel like all of us do, especially at the beginning, right?
We all have the same thing, and
Mhm.
then so like, okay, so like I'm gonna open an Instagram, and what am I gonna how am I, and so I was seeing people just doing all this like very elegant, little display of spreads with like crystals and flowers. Just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. This is not me. I don't know what to do. Well, what about I show all those cards that I found in like those weird places and talk about them, because they're a lot of museums have them, but because they're ephemeras
Mhm.
and also kind of objects too,
Mhm.
they're very rarely on display. And so I thought, well, maybe I can make my Instagram this kind of window for people who are interested in a place where they can realize that this is not like that tool that is so sacred to us. It actually comes from a lot of like layman gaming traditions,
Mhm.
and those images that like the devil,
Mhm.
before we invested the devil with all this interesting typical Jungian shadowy stuff, like he was just a good Christian devil who
Yeah.
was hairy and smelly and
Yeah, just kind of gross.
and, so yeah, that's my answer. Coffee.
It's a great answer. Coffee
Sorry,
is the answer.
coffee is the answer. Yeah.
I love it. No, I'm a Gemini rising with a Scorpio sun, so I really feel you on the like deep curiosity, deep dive. I love that visual of just rummaging through drawers because yeah, I feel like that's so much what I want to do most of the time is just wander around in a space and just poke around and see what I can find and then chase the rabbit hole for as long as I can until I end up somewhere interesting.
So that's like the Alice generation.
Yes,
Kind of
truly.
like, just like, or mischievous curiosity is going to be the end of us.
Truly drag us to Wonderland. Let's see what we find. I love that so much. I started my Instagram right around 2017 too. I feel like it was a much easier time to be online and sharing tarot stuff. It's so hard now.
I mean, you and I, Meg, we're part of
Yeah.
this zeitgeist of,
Yeah.
I think there was something very interesting that happened around that time. I don't know what it is, but somehow, a lot of people, artists, cartomancer, started during that time between
Mhm.
2017, 2018,
Mhm.
2019, and then 2020. We were already equipped to basically serve the great challenge
Yeah.
that was COVID. And so like it's so interesting to see how like we were kind of like surfing on this zeitgeist, and now like the work we do is even more relevant, I think.
Yeah, it feels so necessary. I don't know if you struggle with this, but sometimes I worry that I'm like doing something that isn't the most helpful thing I could be doing. And then when I really look at my work and remember what it is that we actually do in terms of offering spiritual care and offering like support and grounding for people, I'm like, what could I be doing that's actually more valuable than this? This sometimes feels like it's everything. It's the best gift I feel like I could give to people at those times.
Yeah, I think it's just like I think everyone should try to answer that question for themselves. Like personally, as a how do you call that again? They have a special name for people like me now, like flexivert.
Oh yes.
Flexivert.
Ambivert maybe, or like
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, like this, like, yeah, ambivert, flexivert. I'm an
Yes.
introvert who can easily pass for an extrovert.
Yes.
I know that my the best I can offer to this world is create space for intimacy,
Mm.
for real emotional intimacy, and of course, I can like whip myself as a Catholic. I can also whip myself, wondering like,
Yeah.
oh, how can I do more? But I also just understand now, because I've done this work for a very long time, that
Mhm.
I also have to find limits,
Mhm.
and that everything, every ounce of generosity of spirit, kindness, compassion, it's not a drop in the ocean. I
Mhm.
do believe it matters. I do believe that from that tiny little corner of Brooklyn, like we managed to kind of have this kind of butterfly effect. Maybe it's like a little grandiose to believe that, but I don't feel like I have a whole spectrum of great anxiety flavors, if you want to talk about that. But
Yes.
this one, I don't have it. I don't have it. I know, I'm doing my best in this world,
Mhm.
and I think, you know.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I love that. And I don't think it's grandiose at all. I think there is something potent and specifically magical in trusting that the things that we're putting out there are creating space for intimacy, as you say, or allowing people space to see themselves in new ways. That's what a lot of what I think my work centers on, is trying to help people see themselves in ways that are really authentic and
Mhm.
truthful, even when that's painful or difficult. I think there is such value in that. So yeah, we're opening up spaces for that. I really love that framing. I wanted to ask you, because I was rereading your book, as I'm wont to do. And I noticed this time around in your introduction that you shared, and you've kind of alluded to it already, but you shared that you started reading tarot from a very early age, but it took a minute for you to feel like you were really reading well, or like you were really confident in your readings. And that was very much my experience too. My first couple of years with tarot, I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't even know if I can do this. I didn't necessarily feel this big spark or this wave of intuition or this real sense of knowing when I first picked up the cards. I would love to hear more about your experience for that, because I feel like not enough of us talk about that, you know?
I got into tarot when I was very young. I'm French again.
Mm.
So, in France in the 90s, there were no. It was not easy. I'm sure it was not impossible, but at least for me, a suburban kid, it was not easy to find a Rider-Waite Smith. So the tarot was the Tarot de Marseille. And
Mhm.
so Tarot de Marseille, the peep cards are very abstract. You have I have it somewhere here. I mean, I still have a couple of cards, but the first Tarot Marseille I had was a Grimaud Marseille, and
Mhm.
it had this crazy little white book by this tarot scholar named Chalai Hunger, who
Mhm.
was like, I don't know, like she was like this super intellectual, like just like quantum physics, psychoanalysis, and I'm
Right,
11,
okay.
and I'm just like, what?
That's so much.
Well, like for my introduction to tarot was really like trying to do love readings during recess for my friends, and then you're like, okay, like quantum
With
physics.
quantum physics.
I barely know how to spell my name. Give me a break, shall I? And and uh, and so it was just a thing. I was like, I was fascinated by those images. There was something where they really stirred my imagination. I've had like this very strong, like interest into witchcraft. I've known witchcraft when I was, like a teen, like I guess a lot of teens, and always really, really kind of like reading books about that stuff. And most of that stuff was very complicated for me as a kid, but I've always been, like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And then things changed when, in my 20s, I moved in with my good friend. If she hears this, my good friend Marianne. Marianne was, she has like a whole umbrella of nationalities, but she was raised in Great Britain. So, and so like she read cards too, but she read with a Rider-Waite Smith.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so every Sunday, in our flat sharing, every Sunday we would go in and read cards to one another. And it was very conversational. It was not about like trying to divine or anything. It was really
Mhm.
to unpack the highs, the ebbs and flows of Parisian nightlife, basically. And it was just, it was like, first there was this thing which was, I think was very special for me. It was this idea that the like it didn't feel like this very strong esoteric portal. It felt like true feminine friendship. Like the
Yeah.
tarot was this gift that allowed us to kind of like change the level of conversation.
Mm.
And then there was the thing that she had this tarot deck that I didn't know of, that Rider-Waite-Smith. I never had seen one of those before, and I thought the one she had was just so much more eloquent
Mhm.
for me. And of course, like then of course later I learned that the artist is a woman,
Yeah.
that she was working in theater. She had this very strong, like late 19th century pre-Raphaelite Japanism, aesthetic, which is something that I obviously have very strong aesthetic connivance,
Yes.
and so after that I started to kind of experiment more with that deck, and then things got really more interesting. But I was not a good reader until basically 7 years, where it just fell back in my face like a ton of bricks. And the only crippling, like you talked about opening things up like a like a bottle of
My
Coke.
top.
Yeah, like a bottle of Coke or
Yeah.
something. Like that bottle, that like little thing. It was just self confidence. The
Mm.
moment I stopped self doubting my ability, it was just there. It was like speaking French. I don't speak French every day, but it's there, and I don't use it. And then one day, it's like there, and I was just, oh, of course I know how to do this, and I don't have to be scared. Like it's just like I cool to see it and how people resonated with it. So
I
yeah,
love that so
here.
much. Did you feel like there was like a switch that flipped or anything? Because I know for me, like I wasn't familiar with the Marseille at first, and so I was using these kind of more Rider-Waite-Smith style decks. And once I started to learn more about the Marseille and like numerology specifically, it really did feel like that like snap of the soda tab, and like all of a sudden everything was moving really quickly, and it felt like things just shifted into place, like a camera finally focusing. Did you have an experience like that, or was it more, did it feel more gradual?
I think so. I think it's just I realized that I've always been good at reading images. Like, and
Yeah,
that's
that
what
makes
I did
sense.
as a job when I
Mhm.
was in university. Like you look at artworks, and then you have to kind of read more than what they are. You have to read the intention of the artist, why they are relevant for the moment they were there, what they can speak about that is not necessarily visible. And I think for me it was just this. It was the idea of like you can look at an image objectively
Mhm.
and also subjectively. Like that image can also speaks about you or the person in front of you.
Mhm.
And the moment you just develop, or trust that subjective gaze, you just enter in that tunnel, and then like you can see all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And so for me it was just this. It was just, oh, I just have to apply my way of looking at art
Mhm.
to those images.
I wondered if there were any cards in particular that when you started digging into them, like looking at those historical images, if it really shook up your perspective on that particular archetype. Do you know what I mean? Like if in digging more deeply into the older images or depictions of certain cards, if it really rattled your perspective, or kind of expanded your perspective or relationship on a card.
The thing is, the thing is this, is that the tarot, like one thing that I knew before, and also it's because I don't want to sound pedantic or anything. It's just,
No,
like
not at
in
all.
France you have like churches everywhere. You go in
Mhm.
churches, you have cardinal virtues depicted on like like on the walls from the 18th
Mhm.
century, like all that stuff. The language of the major arcana, it's like kind of everywhere. You
Mhm.
find it in statuaries in the city, you find it in old books, you'll find it like in like like the city hall, like
Yeah.
because like like we like France had was the part of this like moment during the Renaissance where allegories,
Mhm.
like the idea of using very often feminine bodies to incarnate more moral philosophical concept or stuff like that. Well, it's just the thing that we're kind of like, it's the background noise of the city,
Mm-hmm.
really. And I didn't grow up in Paris, but even it's something that you experience everywhere in France. So like there was not something like, oh, I don't really understand what those cards are. And well, I can look at the temperance and oh my god, I had no idea that it was about wine. I think that for me what was really interesting is the hangman, because I have an interest in in like some of the darker aspects of history, and
Yeah.
I've also like I've talked I made a whole lecture about this, but I've always been super interested. I love Hannibal Lecter in the sense.
Yes.
So there is this. I don't know if you know this, but if you reread Hannibal, there is this lore that Hannibal Lecter is a descendant from the Visconti Sforza family, and that his mother, his name is Simonetta Sforza Lecter. So the like he basically comes from a lineage that supposedly comes from the Renaissance, and like during the Hannibal book, there is this famous lecture that he does about like hanging as a punishment for betrayal. And I think that this rediscovering all this like Renaissance aspect of men hanged by one foot, not as a martyr, or like the idea, when you study the card, the 19th century / 20th century understanding of this card is like it's a martyr, and so you're supposed to empathize with that card, and then there's like this connection to sainthood, this idea that like the person transcends physical pain, and then you're supposed to see him as a role model, but in the Renaissance it was not about
very different.
it was an enemy, like it was just like crime and punishment Renaissance style, and it was just about like also what was interesting too is that there is all this like tradition of humiliating painting, creating images where the person is betrayed you and then they're gone. You can't take them and then kill them, but you can kill their name. You can like soil their name for generation by creating those portraits of themselves hang by one foot and putting them all over the city, so everyone will know if you come back in town that you're just a piece of shit. And so that was very interesting. I enjoyed really like diving into that. And then I think like it's just what I'm really interested in. I'm interested in like the mechanics of the tarot culture. I'm interested in understanding tarot as a cultural continuum that changes, and maybe the images don't change that much, but the way we perceive them changes. And so I'm interested in, I think that the idea that it's still a culture that is in creation, and that no one was neither right or wrong. And then when you read like 19th century authors that are like, this is about this.
This is the only thing it can be. Yeah.
I know that like this. And then you're just like, okay, well, we can take a little bit of distance here. Like the tarot is not that, like I've been like I've been teaching this class, and 2 weeks ago I was back in Eliphas Levy's word. And so, tarot as the key of occult science, and you represent it as an actual key. So here you just take the tarot, 22 arcana, you unlock all the mysteries. You had this very cool sentence in the Dogma and Ritual of High Magic where he says like, oh, you take a rando and you put him in jail with a tarot deck, like you pick him up 6 months later and he will just know everything about everything because he had the, I love
keys to everything. Yeah.
Of course, this is such a seducing idea. But in reality, like they were all tricksters, all those guys. They either they believed in their own beliefs a little too much, or they kind of like rearranged. And that I love. I think some people don't know. Yeah, but like I enjoy that culture. I enjoy this idea that tarot is still always this thing that it can be reshaped and reformed, and then the way it touches us now, like in 2025, in the context of all the things we're experiencing, which is it will change in 100 years, but tarot will still be there in 100 years. Yes, it will.
Yes. I love that so much. And yeah, I think that that's so resonant with my own way of working with the cards as well, is that it's an ongoing relationship. And just like any relationship you have with a friend or a lover or a family member, it's always going to continue evolving. So thinking about that collective relationship that we have with these archetypes and how that's allowed and should, I think, evolve and change over time as we learn new things and as the culture around us shifts and as we endure things collectively like we're enduring right now, it should be changing and growing. We should be allowed to discover new things within those images. I love that idea of like the image not necessarily having to change very much, but us sort of changing around it and in relationship to it. I think that's so cool.
When we were kids in France, we used to have those little, like little paperback books with like, like 50 pages. And it was just every day you have to do like a math exercise. During your whole summer, you don't forget how to do math or spell stuff. And so like, I have 2 books this year. That's your book, the spread book, and so I'm just like slowly reading it, doing a spread here and there. And then the neuroscience of tarot.
Cool! I still need to get that one. Are you enjoying it?
I love it, and like we did a little interview together. Like he's such an adorable human being, but also so smart. And there is like this book is such an interesting new entrance door in the tarot. So my tarot summer is basically
love it
tarot spread and neuro tarot. So
that's very cool. Yeah, I'll have to pick it up. I feel like there's so many interesting tarot books coming out right now that I have not yet gotten to read. There's like a tarot architect book that I haven't read yet. There's just like some really cool ones coming out. So
this is really cool. And I was just like, I was reading your book, and it's for me what's really interesting, this idea that you can just do more with less. You know, like 3-card spread is really that. It's like it holds everything together. It's the great mayonnaise of tarot. It's 3 cards, and then you give a lot of like super interesting example, like the kind of like traffic lights and then like, all that stuff. It's so simple, but like as a for daily practice, it just makes it so efficient.
Thank you. Yeah, I just really love the simplicity of it, whether it's a friend of mine calls it like the 3-act structure. She doesn't read a lot of tarot, but she really likes the cleanness and neatness of a 3-card spread. And I even love a 2-card spread. I just think there's something so like, let's just get to the point of the thing that can be really, really useful. I tend to use much longer spreads when I'm reading for clients. I don't know if you're the same way, but when I'm reading for me, I'm like, let's not mince words. Like, I want the cards to be as direct with me as possible. I don't want any room for confusion.
This is a question I want to ask everyone, to you specifically. Like, I've always been amazed by those. Like if you read Lenormand, there is all this like traditions of like grand tableau where basically you use the whole deck, for a spread. So like for me, it's like basically like just jumping for how do you call that again? Like that thing when you jump with like a big elastic around your waist and you
like bungee jumping.
Like the bungee jumping of tarot. I've never tried it personally for myself for anyone. And did you go for like exceedingly long 78 spread? Did you ever try that?
I did early on. I remember early on I did 2 really long readings. I did a Celtic cross like in like my 2nd week of trying to read tarot, which was a huge mistake and totally turned me off from the reading. I had no idea what I was doing, and it was way too ambitious, way too soon. And then one of the first spreads I tried to create was 14 cards long. And I didn't know what I was doing. I just like tried to smush a couple of pre-existing spreads together and thought that somehow that would work, which it super does not.
Frankenstein.
It was awful.
Just take a limb of this.
It was such a mess. I don't know what I was thinking, but I just like Frankenstein like 3 or 4 spreads together and then was hopelessly confused and had no idea what was going on. So I think that kind of broke my spirit a little bit for longer readings. I feel like doing a big long, like using the whole deck with Lenormand might be more approachable for me, but using all 78 cards, I know people do it, but I don't think I could hang. I feel like I would want to just focus on one little section and then kind of just shove the rest.
So it's so interesting. In the Marseille tradition, not everyone does this, but because the pip cards are very abstract. For years and years, I remember, you'd buy a book, like sometimes you'll just have the major arcana in it, and then there will be like spread suggestion. If you look at Oswald Vier's the Tarot of the Magician, it's called. It's like a book from the late 19th century. and it really has this I love that book very much. It was translated in English, so you guys can read it. And like it's the esoteric study of the major arcana. Like for like the longest time, the esoteric French tradition was like, well, we don't know. It's like, like it's the salad and the meat. We're just like throwing off the vegetables, and then like
like good luck. It's not that important anyway.
Sheet of tarot and then make our dinner with it. And so like there is this thing in the French tradition, the classic spread is the French cross. So you have 5 cards because you only use the major arcana. If you were trying to do a Celtic cross with the major arcana, like your head is going to explode, like in Scanner, the Cronenberg film. Like it's just like, why would you do that to yourself? So try and eat a little salad. You cannot survive on meat alone. You need fibers. The minor arcana are the fibers of tarot. They'll just
eat a single vitamin. Oh, I love that. Well, I did notice when I was looking up the Kickstarter for your deck, it's just a major arcana deck.
It's just a major arcana.
Was that kind of one of the ideas?
Like Lou and I were very ambitious. We're just like I love her so much. She's so amazing.
Her work's so beautiful.
Like we're slow paced.
Yeah.
With people. And also we're busy doing our best in the world.
Yeah.
But we also have all these like great ambitions about things, and so like the tarot is one of them. And the idea we want to do a quadrilogy deck. So we've done the Camena Tarot, which is the water deck, and then the next one is going to be a kind of figurative cartomancy deck using a set of suits that are not necessarily the tarot suits, but like it's going to be the element of earth. And then we're going to do 2 oracle deck, one which is going to be only aviaries for air, and then the fire. I'm not sure exactly what we feel like doing, but it might take us 10 years to finish this. Like it took us 5 years to do the 22 major arcana. So I know people are interesting in this kind of like like how do you call it, supply and demand. It was a great pleasure to work with Lou because she has the same kind of like both work ethics and also just like I love the idea of slowness. I'm sure like I was impatient a bunch of time, but like I respect her so much as an artist. Like, why am I going to rush anything? Like I've done the writing. The writing itself took me so much time, and we finished basically at the same finishing line in February, and it's just I don't think so much happened during those 5 years. I think this is the right time for the deck to emerge. And I was writing this article for this great new magazine. It was going to get published in a couple of months, called the Discombobulator. And, Andrea, the editor, asked me like, "Oh, do you want to write something about the Camena?" And I think very non-ironically, I can say that there is something channeled in that deck, and I feel like, I don't know, like how Lou and I met, the way we decided to do this, which was another coffee induced morning thing. There was
all the best things happen.
Strange serendipity that accompanied. So, but the idea is this: at some point we'll do a set of pip cards that you can use with it. But the idea is, I like the idea of a mega deck that you can use different parts for different work. Like, like the major arcana with one of the oracle, and then mix them up. The cards are going to be the same size, same back. So there will be just like a gigantic monster deck.
I love that so much.
We'll see if people have the patience to wait.
That seems like something worth waiting for. And I do feel like slowness in the creative process is really underrated. I think that because sometimes projects come through really quickly. Like my spreads book came together in only a few months, and I don't think I could ever replicate that. But I love getting to spend a lot of time on a project. And I think especially when you're working with another person, and also when you're incorporating all of these beautiful layers of visuals. It's an intricate set of images. They're not just like these very simple minimalist. There's a lot happening. So why wouldn't you take your time, right?
It was just, it was just very interesting too. Like, tarot is the thing I know, so
Mhm.
like the way we worked is that we were having meetings, and I was basically talking about the cards, and then so like I the one of the way I see it too is like I love Lou's work so much. I wanted her to just basically create the deck of my dreams.
Yeah.
and and so I basically incorporated all the things that matters to me that I've learned, studying tarot for so long, iconography wise. And so there is, I spent a lot of time writing the booklet, but like the whole point is that there is a lot of how do you call it, red herrings,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
there will be people's like goal to kind of like find them and navigate them. And I like the idea that maybe some of them, like the Phil Kennelly's
Mhm.
book, Mystery of the Cathedral, like
Mhm.
some of it will be read by people who manage to read between the lines of things. But so like the reality is those cards are so rich in
Mhm.
details that like do you really need a set of cards? We'll see. We'll
Maybe
see.
not.
Just like the reality is, it was just really I'm just like ridden with anxiety. So
Yeah. I
the
mean, yeah.
idea of the fact that it was a success was like a complete surprise to me, and I'm just excited that people like were interested and supportive, and
Yeah.
just grateful, and yeah.
No, I mean, it's a beautiful deck. And I do think it's really indicative, not only of like, what beautiful and talented artists you and Lou both are, but also just how hungry people are for this kind of support in their day-to-day life. I think people are so eager to find something that's going to help them feel a sense of grounding and take care of themselves right now. And
But it's
tarot.
also I think people, and this is the like we were talking about the book, one of the things that didn't exist when I finished the book. The book was published in 2021.
Mhm.
AI was not a thing in 2021,
I
and
know.
so like I put a couple of contemporary tarots, Fyodor Pavlov,
Mhm.
Alexander's Tostionyx,
Yeah.
Kevin Selznick, the Brady Tarot,
Mhm.
and then Uzi.
Mhm.
So all the different Uzi. Like a group of artists who are real craftsmen
Mhm.
and visual artists who work with real, like Courtney Alexander, she works with collage and paint. And
Mhm.
if you ever have, like, I've got very lucky to see two of her original.
Mhm. Oh,
It's just like
amazing.
totally mind blowing.
Yeah.
Ken Selzing, they're a good friend of mine, so I've seen their work many times. Great, like it's just so all those people, they just know how to create images, and I think people really, especially Uzi is like one of the biggest success tarot wise. They are real craftsmen, and they have such a really interesting ethics about, like, it's not because it's handmade um and we are using precious
Mhm.
material or complex technique that it should be expensive, and it
Mhm.
shouldn't be for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think people really, the underlying of this is that there's so many terrible art that was done for the past like 5 years.
Mhm.
And I, no offense to digital artists who
No.
do digital art, which I think is also obviously art, but all these like AI crap images,
So
and the fact
tired.
that some of them are, like they're the old guards too. They're people that are there were people we loved in the 90s.
No, I'm like, what are you doing?
Oh, it's like,
Like, you know how to do this. Why are you using this?
I know. And so, like, I think that one of the reasons for the deck is that I'm a real writer.
Yeah.
Lou's
Yeah.
an artist. She's using watercolor. It's like
Mhm.
handmade, filled with mistakes. We were just like slow and then introverted, and just like, and so I think people respond to that like
Yeah.
even more now than before.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a good point because, yeah, I feel like you really can feel, even if you don't immediately look at something and clock it as I feel like you really can feel the soul in artwork that's made with time and love and care. And I love mistakes. I don't, I think when something is perfect, it's a little off-putting. Like, I like for things to be quirky or a little messy, or, my first book has typos. I haven't found any in this one yet, but I'm sure it has a typo in it somewhere, like it's because I wrote it as a human being and AI didn't come anywhere near it. And that's, there's a bunch of humans that read it and we all tried to catch the mistakes, and I'm sure there's an error in it. And I'm like, yeah, of course there is, because I'm a human being and I wrote it myself without the help of a robot. Like, I like that.
I like that too. I think it's so interesting that one of the things that I'm sure, like, my book is old now, like it's technically been 4 years, and I wrote it during the pandemic. I've not asked because I'm embarrassed probably, but I'm sure if I asked, like some of those like real tarot historians that I know, to just tell me, okay, read it again. Tell me, can you just like do little marks where like, there is like errors of things? There's plenty of errors in there. I know it. And one of the reasons I know it is because 4 or 5 years ago, it was not necessarily an interest of tarot practitioner to be interested in the history. Since then, there is this very interesting movement where people are interested in the practice, but also in some of the historical legitimacy or artistic legitimacy of that work. And so people have started to do their own research, and then, like, I knew people who knew nothing, and now they're better than they correct me, like, Letty, actually,
like, hey, did you miss this?
So I do enjoy the idea of the time capsule. I think that the book, I'm very emotionally attached to that book. It really is I don't know if it's a good academic book, but it's a love letter.
It reads like a love letter, and I'd always rather read history where it feels like the person is in love with their subject than just like a very dry. I didn't do well in history in school, and I think part of it is because it's so dry and there's no like love for the subject, especially the way that like history is taught in American public school. It's very just like memorize some names and dates. And it's meant that as an adult, I've been I don't know anything about history, but if I could read top books like this on each topic, I feel like I would be way more inspired and activated by history. And I feel like,
call me perverse. I remember I used to have this conversation with Rachel Pollack, who hints about it in the intro. It's just like, I think I am in love with the tarot. I've been, I can maybe very humorously say, although I'm a very monogamous person, I am in a polyamorous archetypal relationship with 22 lovers and many court cards.
I love it.
And they gave me so much advice, support, comfort, presence. They've been my grief counselors. They've been my practical advisor. They've been my, fighting coach.
Yeah, 100%.
For years now. Yeah. And so, like, even if it's been an on and off relationship since I'm a child, I don't know if it's one of the things I've done the most in my life, specifically in the past 7 years, and there is something to be said about, like the relationship that I have with those images, like there is nothing, of course I want to talk about, some serious and stuff, but like, historians will be pissed at me because I have the wrong date, but tarot will not, because I am, it's most, I am the Knight of Cups, like I'm just bowing down at the feet of the tarot and then pouring, my cup.
I love it.
Devotional act of love.
That was the word that was coming to mind too. It does feel like a very devotional relationship, and not necessarily in like a, worshipful way, although it can be, but it feels like this very reciprocal, devotional, like, I love the cards and I feel like they love me back. And isn't that a beautiful thing to have that constant in your life, even if it's kind of ebbing and flowing in terms of the level of intimacy or the level of daily attention?
Yeah, and it's just like isn't that incredible? Like you give readings, you have this experience too. Like, those are a piece of paper, and then they make people cry. They manage to unlock emotional clogs for no reason, and then like, it's just like there's something is happening somewhere. Like, maybe, like, of course, it's just like the picture is, a marker of the presence, but like, I do believe in the emperor, the empress, the princess, the chariot. I believe that there is something intangible that accompany us when we read them. I think they are around, and I don't know, like, okay, this is a question for you, Meg. Did you ever do a tarot dream? Did you ever dream about giving yourself a reading or meeting one of those
Archetypes.
those characters. Yeah.
Yeah. I love this question. So my toxic trait is that I'm a really severe insomniac, so I don't dream very much. But it's interesting that you asked this because actually one of the things that finally pushed me to buy my first tarot deck in 2016 of all times, but that's when I decided to buy my first tarot deck, was because I kept dreaming about the death card. And I didn't know, and I mean, I'm a fucking Scorpio, so sure, but I kept seeing the image specifically of that Rider-Waite-Smith death card,
Yeah.
and I'd never had a reading, and I didn't know anything about the tarot. I grew up evangelical Christian, but I kept dreaming about that, and it was so unusual for me to dream at all that when I do dream, I tend to remember it because I'm like, oh my God, I had a dream. This is wild. And it just kept happening. And I don't remember like talking to death or it wasn't even necessarily in the context of a reading, but it was just like death was just kind of around.
Yeah, isn't it crazy?
It's
I
crazy.
think this is, yeah, I was just really interested because everyone has not everyone, but like a lot of people do have like interesting tarot dream story where they give themselves reading in the dream, or they meet, like they just like walk around and then there's this like building and they go in and then here they meet the papess. I just found that really extraordinary. I got myself a couple of like dream readings. I can't remember
Oh,
exactly,
yeah.
but just like almost like like in how do you call that again? When there is the
Oh,
autopilot,
yes. Yeah.
like just like, okay, so like now Letty has integrated the language of the tarot, so like downstairs we have a message.
Yes.
We're not going to wait until next time she brings her card. Let's just like, hey, like in the consciousness, can you make sure she dreams about like those 3 cards so she'll get them
If
out?
she keeps not listening to me, can you just like put that
Yeah,
in there while she's
she'll listen to this. And it's just I found that super interesting because it's almost like a I'm interested in all sorts of things in general, but I'm interested. One of the things that I'm really interested in is like language and how it develops and how like from now I turned 40-year-old in April. 10 years ago, for example, when I arrived, I had been 4 years in the US. I was not necessarily very aware of the language, the contemporary language of the queer experience in the US. For example, the people, how people use pronouns, because even if I lived in New York, like in the people that I frequented, people didn't needed this, and so it's something that I had to learn. And it's so interesting that like the experience of queerness. And also experience of traumatic experience,
Yes.
psychoanalysis, the way we internalize things, this whole gaslighting. Gaslighting is a term now.
Yeah.
Before we were just like like being victim of it, and now there is a term where it's like, look, you're doing this right now. And so I found that very interesting, and the tarot functions the same. Like it's just, those are kind of like conceptual building blocks that allow us to speak about something very abstract experiences, and tarot. Of course, I love the idea of being like saying like, oh, I'm a good diviner. I'm a good diviner. Come to me, people. I'll read your cards.
I can see anything.
I can see
Yeah.
anything. Oh, like I'm such a good diviner. But I just also believe that what makes it so interesting is that it's a tool for language. Like it's a tool that allows us to either dialogue with ourselves or dialogues among one another, or have a person who sees the way you use language and then talk back at you using the card as or using what the card shows. And I'm quite fascinated by that, the idea that tarot is like this kind of like symbolic alphabet that can just kind of create and reinvent everything.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's such a useful framework for, especially in moments where we're struggling to articulate a particular emotion or desire or fear or whatever it is. I find that the tarot can almost always give me a card or a combination of cards that's going to capture that feeling. And when I'm struggling to articulate something or even understand something fully, the tarot can almost always offer me a little gift in terms of like try this language, or, you know, try this archetype, or try this way of expressing this idea, and dig into that and explore it more thoroughly. And it always reveals things to me. It does really feel like not just 22 keys, but like they're all keys to me, and they can all unlock different aspects of self and different combinations of words and ideas that are going to always reveal something new. It's so interesting.
Yeah, I feel like I don't really read cards for myself so much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I like
to
ask for all sorts of stuff, but I think that to get this for me, I can't get it on my own. Like I look at the card and they're like, okay, do you guys realize I'm gonna do this? I use them in the part, you know, partly for my spiritual practice. I use them for journaling a lot. I think journaling is really the thing that I like to do the most. I use them for very short readings, like 2-3 cards reading. But most of the time, my great pleasure in life, and this is not yet you, but Meg, I just put your name on that list.
Oh, great!
When I need a reading, I call my friends. You know, I have probably like you, I do have a bunch of tarot reader friends, and I think that thing that you talk about, like the pointing out at specifics. Or like you didn't have that word, or you didn't know how to call out this experience. Well, an exterior person with a tarot deck will be able to do that. And so one of the great pleasure, you know, like I think tarot, I do have like a very strong, intimate way of cultivate my relationship with the cards, and it's very, you know, like I'm in love with them.
Yeah.
But I also think that for me, it became really this extension of friendship where, you know, like, that's something I've said 1,001 times. Like, it's a game, you know. So a game, you can either play solitaire. You know, if you like the history of painting, look at all those 19th century paintings of ladies playing solitaire, or patience game. You know, just you know,
like okay.
Crazy Caravaggio, where, you know, Jesus interrupts, you know, those guys in a tavern, and they're like, "Oh my God, is that Jesus?" I
just wanted to play my little game. Like,
I know, it's like I was just trying to cheat. I can't do this now. And so there is the thing: tarot is a game. It's like it's collective work. You know, like if you feel like there is a dead end, you know, ask your friends, ask someone you don't know very well who knows how to read cards, and then create the relationship, and then just like offer them the same service if they need something. And I feel like for me it really was the cement of so many of it is the cement of so many of my friendship. I think that part of what really, you know, like the real kind of like popping, you know, it's like I feel like the metaphor is almost when you just like your ears pop when you're in the plane. Yeah, like I've done a lot of spiritual work secretly, and sometimes like not shamefully, but like I used to do like witchcraft, and even as an adult, I've done all sorts of stuff. But it was always secret, and I've always done it in the, you know, like in the back of my life, you know. And then there's sometimes when I was in a couple and I was living with my partner, and so like I had to kind of like just draw all those practices, and then it just like, you know, like I completely lost my mind around it, and I still did it a little bit. But the idea of, you know, like the 2017, like 2016 pop was like, wait, I don't have to do that alone. A lot of people do this. What about I just like connect with the people who won't judge me for it, and then we just share our practice, and then we all come from different side of the esoteric spectrum. You know, some people are very, you know, I have a lot of friends astrologer. I'm not an astrologer. I have like I don't like numerology, Meg.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. This is a safe space for not liking things. Colors is good.
Like, you know, the Crayola. I'm the Crayola of tarot. You know, I'm just
so
like,
I'm here for that. All right.
Yeah, and so, but it was just like, it was just this thing. It was like we probably talk about like all sorts of different things, but like there is this one thing. It's just like we open the space to be able to practice stuff together. So I think that for me, the community aspect of it, the idea of like creating community with whatever you practice, whether we're all beginners, you know. Like if someone tells you like, oh, I'm like an experienced wizard,
get out of here.
like just slap them in the face, you know. It's just like,
No, that's what I've been saying for years. I'm like, when I start saying I'm a tarot expert and I don't have anything left to learn, make me retire. Cause like the moment I stop being curious about tarot, like I gotta move on because I don't anticipate that ever happening, but it's so boring. Like there's so much to learn and there's always so much to discover. And to your point, especially when you read with other people, especially like someone who doesn't read the way that I do or who's not using the same modalities that I do, you know, if we were to sit in a room and pull cards together, we'd probably have completely different approaches to certain cards. And I think that's exciting and interesting and good. I think it's boring if we all have the same thing to say, you know?
yeah, the thing is, if both of us, we had a phone, and then there will be like a flower or like a tree over there.
Mhm.
Someone asks us, "Oh, take pictures of that tree." It will be the same, we wouldn't take the same picture.
Yeah.
It's because the tarot, I think, one of the things I love about it is it's a subjective art form.
Mhm.
So that we might not say the same thing. It is very likely that maybe you will come, even with different cards, we might come to conclusion that are not completely far-fetched from one another.
Yeah.
For an actual reading for a person.
Mhm.
But I think that like we'll see stuff from different points of view because we are at different places.
Mhm.
We like from culturally, socially, from all sorts of stuff. So, but that's what makes it more interesting.
Yeah. It's a feature, not a bug, right? Like it's a good thing.
It's
Yeah.
just like the fact that there is no one route. The fact that there is poetic license in the tarot. Is just the thing that fascinates me. Like in artistry, like people in artistry, things are just so much more relaxed about this
Yes.
because from like basically since the like 125 years ish, people have been doing exhibition about Picasso,
Mhm.
and they always find something new to say about
Yeah.
Picasso. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's terrible, sometimes it's in the middle. So but it's just like you go to France, there is no unfortunately there is no shortage. Like Picasso is like the Marvel movies of
Yes.
artists.
Everybody.
Every year there is a new one. It's like,
How many Spider-Man movies do we really need? All of them.
exactly. We just let A24 do more weird shit. Like give room for artists, younger people
Really.
to do stuff. But it's the thing is like there's still something, and I'm using Picasso because he's like probably the most famous artist. But and I know he's deranging for a lot of people because of his relationship to women.
Yes.
I am completely obviously aware of this, but there is something that I really enjoy some of the early some of his early work, and so I will still go to a Picasso show sometime. But there is still a lot of interesting things, like a lot of new curator have interesting things to say because they can see stuff that people that are 40 years after them won't be able to see.
Mm-hmm.
And so tarot functions the same way. What's allowed in art history, like you can take two paintings and put them next to one another and they will just say something else about the time period, the artist, the color they use. Tarot is the same. It functions the same. It's the great power of interpretation. You can reinvent everything as long as you see it and and it's strong enough for other people to see it. It works.
Absolutely. Well, and I think there's something too about, we spend all this time studying the cards and looking at the cards and exploring the cards and building relationships with the cards and perhaps worshiping the cards. And I think there is something really beautiful in continuing to deepen the relationship that we have with the cards over years and decades. I'm going to come up on, I also turned 40 this year, not until November. I know we're doing great. But I'll have been reading for 10 years next year, which is not all that long, but it's longer than others. I know, we're team 40. Good for us.
Like a tarot birthday. Come on, just we can
Oh my
celebrate.
God, yes.
Please do. That will be so fun.
Cute. But I think that there's something so beautiful about working with people who have like never seen the cards before or who are coming to the cards really, really fresh. And to your point about like Picasso and these exhibitions, I think that when people are not super familiar with the thing, they're going to see something really true and really special within the cards that someone who's been studying them forever might still have missed or be able to put language to it in a way that someone who's been studying this forever might have kind of forgotten or overlooked. I love working with new people.
I've said that many times, but I got tarot readings in really weird places.
Yeah.
And so I got like tarot readings in like Mexico. It's
Mhm.
like rural, let's say rural.
Uh-huh.
I got a very interesting, so like I think the very interesting tarot reading in Thailand last February.
Cool.
With the Rider, both of them were with the Rider Waite Smith, and I can tell you that I've said that story many times, but like in Mexico and also like even more in Thailand. In Mexico, the woman who read my cards, she has never heard in her life of the Golden Dawn.
Love that for
She
her.
doesn't know
Honestly, love that for her.
what Arthur Edward Waite is, Pamela Coleman Smith, the time where that Deka is the tradition astrological correspondence. It's like
Like, nope, no thanks.
above her head. Like she just she reads cards, and those are cards, and she reads them. And their reading was extraordinary.
I'm
It was so
sure.
personal.
I love it.
It was so personal. Was she using, like any correspondent, the King scale? No.
Good.
She was just using those images that speak, and then they speak to her, and she gave me like a really, really interesting reading. And so like that's the thing I see, like okay, and that's something I'm always interested. I'm like I don't like to dumb things down. Like I don't. Yeah. I like to read. I like to research. I like history, but I also understand, which is what I wrote for the Rubis.
Yeah. Love
like
the piece so much. I can't wait for y'all to read it. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, that great piece. For the devil, it's just like I think that sometimes, like the biggest error we can do as tarot scholar is to believe that knowledge is the key to our reading experience. I think that there is a limit here, and that sometimes you forget. I mean, I guess people use tarot for all sorts of things, but if you read cards for people, the people are more important than the knowledge.
Yes.
And so like sometimes it's like, how can I say this? Like a slight teaser for the Rubis. Like you get shackled by like this piling up, this like never ending wanting to know more. And then some great artists in the 20th century allowed me to break out of that loop. So thank you.
I love
the
it.
elf.
Love him. I'm glad you said that because that was one of my favorite parts of your essay. So I think it's so special, and I think it's so correct. We get so obsessive about trying to find the right answer instead of just looking for a true answer. And I think those don't have to be separate things, but I think people treat them that way sometimes. So
yeah, how will tell? Because let's just talk about this.
Just talk about it.
Because you were the editor in chief for this.
I was the guest editor. Yeah, Hannah Levy was technically the editor in chief, but I got to be very involved in that piece, and I loved it.
What a trip! Like did you read all the pieces? I mean, I'm not saying like the picture, but like it was just like a whole magazine on the devil. What a trip! Congratulations!
Thank you. It was such a cool thing to work on, especially like because I'm also writing this book, and numerologically I'm in a devil year, so it's just like this energy is just everywhere right now. I'm so into it. I love it. I'm like, let's get weird. Give me all the weird shit. I'm into it.
I can't wait. So when is it coming out? October?
I think it's in the fall. It's like September, October. So I assume that pre-orders are going to open in like later in the summer. I don't remember the exact dates, but I know that Hannah has the prototype and has been taking pictures, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. But I wanted to ask, as we start to kind of move into the end here, I know you said that your personal tarot practice is not necessarily doing a ton of readings, but I wondered if you had, since the idea of this podcast is very much practical advice, is there either anything that you've been doing to kind of take care of yourself right now with the help of the tarot, or just something that you've been recommending to your clients, or anything, just a way to kind of navigate this like very complicated, very challenging, very scary world that we're in right now? Is there any like very simple practices you've been doing, or anything?
I think that like it's going to be a slight repeat.
Okay.
I think that everyone should have 2 tarot friends that they see on a weekly basis to unwind. The same way I used to read cards with my friend Marianne on our bedspread. I think that just like knowing that you have this one opportunity to meet people on this other level of being socially is a lifesaver for a lot of people, even if you don't know those people very well, and they might not necessarily be plugged in your family, your friends, your work. I think that this is the covening, if it's a verb.
Yes, I think it can be.
Covening is the way to go. Just don't be alone in this.
Mhm.
And don't wait until someone invite you in. Just make shit up.
Yes.
And if people are like, yeah, no, that's all right, I don't have time, or well, they're not the right people.
Yeah,
and then just try someone else. Don't be don't lose faith in this just because like people are not, like they don't have the, how do you call that, the time or the assiduity
Mm-hmm.
to do this. I think that part of what's, just like being involved in the collective crucible is really what will save us, small and tight.
Yes, I love that so much. Thank you. I think that's perfect advice, and will really resonate with folks who are listening. So thank you so much. This was so special. And yeah, really could have talked to you for like 3 more hours.
We should hang out.
We will definitely hang out. But I want to ask, I know you teach so many incredible classes and do so many wonderful things. Are there any things that are coming up soon that you'd like to share here, or things you'd like to plug?
My Bard scroll.
I know, just open it all up. It all falls out.
I do all sorts of things. First, I'm sure it's going to be on the website.
We'll put everything on my anything website. You mentioned will be on the show notes, and we'll link to your site as well. But
at the end of the summer, I'm doing 2 classic classes through Morbid Anatomy. One class which is like just a one big session on reading reversal, which I personally, well, obviously it's a polarizing topic, but I think it's a really interesting way to look at the cards. And the other one is a class on the Celtic cross, on the history of the Celtic cross, and also the practice of the Celtic cross. So we're going to just basically relearn how to do it, but also realize that everyone has been doing it like completely different.
Yes.
And then also and then I'll just like lead you to weird places where we're going to figure out strange areas to go. So I'm doing that. And then I just do classes all the time and lecture. I'm going to London in October, and all sorts of stuff.
Beautiful. Yeah, make sure you check out her website. We'll link it all in the show notes, because you've always got like a million classes going and they all look fascinating. I don't know how you do it, but it's so cool.
I don't know either. I don't know. Tarot, just fill my tank and then I go and then I sleep. That's basically my life. I read books, drink coffee, read cards, and then
this is the way. Honestly, that's the life.
It's a nice life. It's a really just like that's the life I choose. So I
love it. I'm here for it. All right. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with us, and everyone who's listening, thank you for spending this time with us. We will post all the things in the show notes, and we'll be back again soon with another episode.